My girlfriend invited her ex to my apartment, and I'm really angry right now. I live alone in a decent-sized apartment in a big city. My girlfriend Jessica shares a place with a few of her friends, but to be honest, she's at my place almost all the time. If I had to put a number on it, I would say she is here at least 80% of the week. Earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday, it's all a blur now. I was at the gym with my buddy Chris. While we were working out, Jessica texted me, telling me she had an old friend from out of town who she had not seen in a long time and wanted to catch up with. She asked if they could use my apartment for a quiet conversation. And since I was already planning on grabbing dinner with Chris after the gym, I told her it was fine. At the time, I was in the middle of my workout, so I was not really thinking too much about it. I just gave her the okay and did not bother to ask who this old friend was. Looking back, I definitely should have asked because this friend turned out to be her ex-boyfriend Brandon, the only ex she ever mentioned to me. About 30 minutes after that text, she messaged me again, saying they were at the apartment. I just responded with, "Sounds good," and kept lifting weights with Chris. We finished at the gym around 7 in the evening and then decided to stop by Whole Foods nearby. They have a great hot food section, and we were both starving. We ate there, talked for a while, and wrapped up around 8:30. At that point, I started heading home, not thinking anything unusual was going on. I was exhausted from the day, and honestly, all I wanted to do was say a quick hello to Jessica and go straight to bed. It had been a long, draining day, and I was more than ready to crash. I got back to my apartment around 9 o'clock. I had no idea if her friend was still there or not. If I had to be honest, I was hoping they had already left because I was not in the mood to socialize. But if they were still there, I figured I would just play along and be polite. As soon as I walked in, I noticed something strange. Right by the entrance, I saw a pair of big, worn-out Timberland boots, the kind that only a guy would wear. Immediately, my mind went to, okay, so her friend must have brought her boyfriend along. I sighed, already feeling like I would have to stay up longer than I wanted to. I took off my shoes and jacket, walked through the hallway, and stepped into the living room. That is when I saw Jessica sitting on the couch, deep in conversation with a guy. They were sitting on opposite ends of the couch, facing each other, talking. The second she saw me, she jumped a little. At first, I did not think anything of it. I just figured they were caught up in their conversation and I had startled her. So I casually said hello and started looking around, expecting to see her old friend somewhere in the apartment. Maybe they had gone to the bathroom or stepped into the kitchen. But then I turned to the guy and reached out for a handshake saying, "Hey, I am Jessica's boyfriend." He smirked in this cocky way and said, "Oh, I am Brandon, Jessica's ex." That is when everything clicked. I blinked for a second, taking in what he had just said. Then I looked at Jessica, and she looked away like she was suddenly fascinated with the floor. I took a deep breath and asked, "So this is the old friend you were talking about?" She responded in the quietest voice, "Yeah." I did not want to jump to conclusions right away, but I was exhausted, and now I was also irritated. She had been hanging out alone with her ex-boyfriend in my apartment for the past couple of hours, and she had conveniently left out the fact that it was him when she first mentioned it. The room went silent. They had been talking nonstop when I walked in, but now neither of them could say a word. Jessica tried to change the subject by asking how my day was. I just shrugged and said, it was fine, I guess. But honestly, I felt like I was intruding on something. I was not about to sit there and act like nothing was wrong. So after a moment, I turned to Brandon and said, "Hey man, do you mind wrapping it up for today? I need to talk to Jessica about something." He leaned back, grinned, and said, "Well, she invited me over, and we are still reminiscing about the good old days." At that moment, I felt my blood boil. I looked at Jessica, and she still could not meet my eyes. I turned back to Brandon and said, "Okay, let me put it another way. This is my apartment, and I am telling you to leave." Instead of just getting up and going, he looked right at Jessica and asked, "Do you want me to leave?" That was it. I snapped. "What the hell do you mean by that?" I said, my voice sharp. "I do not give a damn if she wants you to leave or not. I am telling you to get the hell out of my apartment." Jessica immediately told me to calm down, then turned to Brandon and told him he should probably go. He finally got up, walked toward the hallway to grab his shoes, and left. I followed behind him, making sure he was actually out the door. When I came back, Jessica was furious. "You embarrassed me," she snapped. I let out a laugh. "I embarrassed you?" She rolled her eyes and started going on about how my reaction was over the top, how I was being dramatic, and how she did tell me someone was coming over. I shook my head. "No, Jessica. You said a friend was coming over. A friend. You never once mentioned that your friend was actually your ex." She groaned and told me I was making a big deal out of nothing. "You are acting like an asshole right now," she said. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "You were hanging out with your ex-boyfriend in my apartment behind my back. Do you seriously not understand why that would piss me off?" She sighed and said Brandon had been going through a rough time, and she was just being there for him. She told me he is a nice guy, and that if she had met with him at my place, it was because she wanted to make sure nothing shady happened. I laughed at that. "So what, I am just supposed to be cool with you and your ex catching up on old times in my own home?" She frowned and told me I was overreacting. "If the roles were reversed and I was comforting my ex-girlfriend, you would be mad as hell," I said. Jessica shook her head. "No, I would understand because I have empathy." I stared at her in disbelief. "That is absolute nonsense. You got mad at me at the gym last week just because a random girl complimented my form while I was lifting weights." She crossed her arms and muttered, "I am done talking," then grabbed her purse and stormed out. I did not chase after her. I did not text her. I just sat on the couch, staring at the wall, trying to process what the hell had just happened. A couple of hours later, she started blowing up my phone with texts, apologizing, trying to explain herself. The last message she sent read, "Can we talk? I am sorry for not telling you it was my ex. I do not want you to get the wrong idea nothing happened, and nothing ever will. I love you." He messaged me out of nowhere, and I did not think much of it. "I am sorry for deceiving you." That sounds like bullshit, right? Because it sure as hell does to me. I am not talking about some outdated 1950s nonsense where the man expects the woman to obey him. That is not what this is about. But if the situation were flipped, if I were sitting with my ex in Jessica's apartment, I would have had her back. If my ex had the nerve to talk to Jessica with that kind of attitude, I would have shut it down immediately. That is just basic respect. Right now, I am still furious, so I know I should not be talking to Jessica. It is around 3 in the morning and I am beyond exhausted. At this point, I do not even know if I am angry anymore or just drained. Update. This is long. You probably do not even want to read all of this, and honestly, I do not blame you. I just had to get my thoughts out somewhere. It is around 7 in the evening now, and I have been up for 13 straight hours trying to process all of this. To say I am drained would be an understatement. I woke up this morning to my phone going absolutely wild with notifications. Apparently, my post on Reddit blew up overnight. My first thought was, why the hell did I even decide to put my personal business out there? I started scrolling through the comments, and to say I was shocked would be putting it lightly. Almost everyone was on my side. I kept reading, waiting to find that one comment defending Jessica, thinking maybe I was missing something. But it never came. What really hit me the hardest were the responses from women saying they would never do something like this to their boyfriend, that it was incredibly disrespectful. Those comments stayed with me because, deep down, that is exactly how I felt. Last night was a damn mess, a complete disaster. I still could not wrap my head around the fact that all of that had actually happened. Since I live alone, I did not really have anyone to vent to in person, so I did what I always do when I am lost. I called my dad. A lot of people in the comments were asking for details about what he told me, so here it is. But first, let me back up and explain exactly where my head was at when I called him. After Jessica stormed out of my apartment, I just sat there trying to breathe and calm myself down. I knew I was angry, but I also knew I needed to control it. The problem was, no matter how many deep breaths I took, I kept hearing Brandon's voice in my head. "Do you want me to leave?" He had the audacity to say that to her, not to me, as if I was not even in the damn room. That one sentence pushed me to my breaking point. I kept repeating to myself, "It is not worth it, it is not worth it, it is not worth it." But my blood was boiling, and no matter what I did, I could not shake the anger. At that point, I gave up on trying to calm myself down and did the only thing I knew would help. I picked up my phone and said, "Siri, call old man." I did not even know what I was going to say, but I knew my dad would know what to do. The phone rang, and as soon as he picked up, the first thing he said was, "I already saw it, man. Victor Oladipo dropped 43 on them boys." I let out a small laugh and shook my head. "It is not about that, Dad. I just got into a huge argument with Jessica. I am really mad and I do not want to do anything stupid." His tone immediately shifted. "Whoa, slow down. Where are you right now? Are you with her? Are you okay?" "I am at my place. She just left. I am fine, but I do not know what to do." There was a long pause on his end before I heard him take a deep breath. "All right, son, tell me everything." So I did. I told him the whole damn story. The entire time, he did not say a word. He just listened. When I finally finished, the only thing he asked was, "What does Brandon look like?" That caught me off guard. "Why the hell does that matter?" I asked. "Just answer the question." "I do not know. He is a white dude with curly hair. Why?" No, my dad said. "How tall was he?" At this point, I was getting confused. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Just humor me," he said. I sighed. "I do not know. Maybe 5'9" at most." My dad chuckled. "That explains the Timberlands then." "What?" "Son, Timberlands are the male equivalent of high heels. If a dude that size is wearing them indoors, he is trying to look taller." I had not even thought about that. That was the thing about my dad. He always had this way of pulling me out of my own head and making me laugh, even when I was pissed off. I found myself cracking a small smile. "You might be right about that." Then he asked, "How much do you think you weighed?" I had to think for a second. "Maybe 150 pounds, give or take." My dad sighed. "All right, let me get this straight. Your girl invites some 5'9", 150-pound dude into your house without telling you who he is, and then when you tell him to leave, he has the nerve to ask her for permission?" "Yeah, that is exactly what happened." There was another long pause before my dad spoke again. "Son, I would not be surprised if this situation is a lot deeper than it looks." That made me sit up. "What do you mean?" "It speaks volumes to me that she only told him to leave after you started getting seriously mad. Son, listen to me. You are 6 feet tall and 190 pounds. You are in your own home, and a man you do not know just disrespected you to your face. A woman who truly cares about you would not even think about putting you in that position." I stayed silent as he kept talking. She knew exactly where this was headed, and the second she realized you were not backing down, she chose to get out of harm's way. And the moment she did that, she switched the blame onto you and walked out like you were the bad guy. Then he hit me with the question I had been avoiding. "Where do you think she is right now?" I did not answer. I did not want to. I already knew what he was implying. He sighed. "I know this hurts, but promise me you will not do anything irrational. She made her choice. There is not much you can do about it now. You have worked too hard to let this mess you up. You have got your life together, son. You are 22, living on your own in the city, working hard. That is rare. You are rare." I felt my chest tighten. "The right woman, the kind of woman you deserve, will come along when you least expect it. Do not waste your energy on this. Everything happens for a reason." I did not say anything for a moment. Then I swallowed and said, "Thanks, Dad, I needed that." He chuckled. "Of course. Your mom and I are always here for you, son." Then we ended the call. I stared at my phone for a while after that, just processing everything. And I realized something. I did not feel angry anymore. I just felt done. "Son, be honest with yourself. Where do you think she is right now?" I did not say anything. I already knew what he was getting at. "I know this hurts, but promise me you are not going to do anything you will regret. She made her choice, and now you have to make yours. There is nothing you can do to change what already happened. You have worked too hard, built too much for yourself to let something like this throw you off track. Do not lose yourself over someone who did not think twice about losing you. Look, I could not be prouder of you, son. You are 22, living on your own in this big city, and you have got your life together. That is not common. You are not common. The right woman, the one who actually deserves you, she will show up when you least expect it. Do not waste your energy on this. Everything happens for a reason." I sat there for a second, taking it all in before I finally said, "Thanks, Dad, I needed that." He chuckled. "Of course, son. Your mom and I are always here for you." End call. The rest of the night was rough. I could not sleep. No matter how many times I turned over or tried to distract myself, my mind kept circling back to what had just gone down. And Jessica? She was blowing up my phone the whole night, sending message after message, apologizing, begging me to just talk to her. By the time I checked my phone in the morning, I had lost count of how many texts she had sent. It was around 11 o'clock, and to be honest, I was just over it. I still had not replied to her, not since she stormed out last night. And in my mind, she had already made her decision. But I also had a long week ahead of me, and I could not let this nonsense keep weighing me down. So I ate something, grabbed my headphones, and went down to my apartment's gym for a run. Running clears my head. When I am lifting, I go to a private gym, but for cardio days, I just use the one in my building. Around 1 in the afternoon, my phone rang. And, of course, it was Jessica. The last thing I wanted to do was pick up, but after 2.5 years together, I felt like I had to. I sighed and answered, "What is up?" Immediately, I was met with crying. "I am sorry, Aaron. I love you so much. Please, just talk to me. I should not have left last night. I panicked. You know I love you, Aaron." I did not say anything. "Please, just talk to me. This is not right. You and I, we are not supposed to be like this. I told you, nothing happened. I swear to you, nothing happened. And I will never talk to him again, I promise. Please, I am begging you. Can we just talk?" I did not feel anger. I did not feel sadness. I felt nothing. For the first time since this whole thing started, I realized I did not care anymore. "Can you come over around 3? I finally said. Still crying, she sniffled. Yes, of course." "Okay," I said, then hung up. I sat there, phone in hand, just staring at the wall, waiting for the hours to pass. Scrolling through the comments on my post, I saw hundreds of people telling me what I already knew. Knock, knock. I heard it from the hallway. A few seconds later, Jessica walked in. She had tears in her eyes, but she was also smiling, like she thought we could just hug this out. I sat there, watching her, waiting to feel something. But all I felt was indifference. This woman, who I had loved, who had meant the world to me just yesterday, was standing in front of me crying, and I felt nothing. "Jessica, it is over," I said. Her eyes widened. She looked completely caught off guard. "What?" she whispered, still crying. "It is over," I repeated. She shook her head. No, Aaron, please. I am sorry. Do not do this. Please, I love you." I sighed. I will not lie, hearing that, it stung. "Jessica, I am sorry, but I cannot do this anymore. I do not know what impression I gave you over these last 2.5 years, but I am not the type of man to sit back while his girlfriend disrespects him. You made your choice when you brought your ex into my apartment behind my back. That is something I will never be okay with." The words just kept pouring out, like a dam had broken inside of me. No man acts that cocky unless he has a reason. I am not an idiot, Jessica. You must have told him something to make him think it was okay to sit in my living room and talk to you like that. And you backed him. You sat there and let him disrespect me in my home. Jessica was sobbing at this point. "I am sorry, Aaron. I love you, I swear. Please." I shook my head. I could not keep going. She was already falling apart in front of me. I just sat down in silence. She sniffled, wiped her tears, and whispered, "I am sorry, Aaron. It will not happen again. I swear. I love you. I only love you. I will never talk to him again. Please, just give me one more chance." I stayed quiet. There was this crushing weight on my chest, like my ribs were going to cave in from the pressure. I sat there, staring at the floor, listening to her sob. Then, I heard the words echo in my head. I would rather have loyalty than love, because love really does not mean anything. See, love is just a feeling you can love somebody and still stab them in their back. It does not take much to love. You can love somebody just by being attached. See, loyalty is action. You can love or hate me and still have my back. 21 Savage. I kept repeating those lyrics over and over in my head. To an outsider, it might seem like Jessica was saying all the right things, but actions speak louder than words. And last night, she showed me exactly where she stood. I took a deep breath and looked up. "Jessica, please, it is over. There is no saving this." She shook her head, tears still falling. "No, please, just stop. It is over, Jessica," I said firmly. "Please, do us both a favor. Get your things and go." She did not say another word. She just turned around, grabbed her stuff, and started packing. I grabbed a garbage bag and helped. When she was done, she placed her key on the table, and then she walked out. By the time I looked at the clock, it was 4:30 in the afternoon. I sat down on the couch, staring at the wall, trying to process everything. It still did not feel real. I had never planned on putting all of this out on Reddit. I just needed to vent. But since the post blew up, I figured I owed everyone an update. It is 7:35 in the evening as I finish writing this. I feel completely drained. The weight of everything that happened in the last 24 hours is finally settling in. To anyone who actually made it to the end of this long update, thank you. To everyone who commented on my last post, thank you. I needed this. And now, I think I am finally done.